Hello, welcome to CLSB Politics. Sean Briscoe here. This is part 14 of my Project 2025. This is their ideas on engaging the Insurrection Act of 1807. It's a little bit of history here. It's kind of convoluted, so I'm going to get right into it. It's often called the 1807, Insurrection Act of 1807, but the law has actually been an amalgamation of laws that were set by Congress that started in 1792, go all the way to 1871. It's broken into two provisions, Section 251 through 255, Title 10 of the United States Code. The Insurrection Act authorizes the president to deploy military forces inside the United States to suppress rebellion or domestic violence, to enforce the law in certain situations. We saw a prime example of that during the when we were integrating schools and stuff. They were used to make sure that African American children could actually walk down the streets without having rocks thrown at them and stuff, even though I think that happened anyway. But at least there were soldiers there. And it was also used, I believe, during the LA riots, during the Rodney King protests. In theory, the Insurrection Act should only be used basically during a crisis. It's beyond the normal capacity of that civil population to control. And that's when they would bring in the U.S. military. Section 251 allows the president to deploy troops if a state's legislature or governor has requested the federal aid to suppress an insurrection in that state. Section 252 and 253 allow that president to deploy troops without a request from the affected state, even against the state's wishes, because federal law is federal law. They can just go in and put down the rebellion and things of that nature. And we've had quite a few rebellions in our time, but I just don't think that the Black Lives Matter movement or anyone protesting, against these horrible laws trying to control women's bodies constitutes something that would be part of that. The first law allows the president to use the U.S. military in a state to suppress any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination or conspiracy. So anything that hinders the execution of laws. And I think this is where Trump's really going to lean, because if they do a federal mandate of pro-life across the entire country, I could totally see him sending in troops to counteract that. The second part of Section 253 permits the president to deploy troops to suppress any insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, conspiracy in a state that opposes those kind of things. I think this provision would also be used by him. This is what he'll use on the blue states, quite honestly. Now, the Supreme Court decided early on that the question is that the president alone to decide. It's exclusively to the president. And so even Congress could not technically intervene. The Supreme Court did clarify, though, that the courts may review the lawfulness of the military action once deployed. And I believe it's only set for like 30 days. But, by that point, the damage has been done. And just knowing what the courts have been like recently, this is hardly makes me feel any better. How I think Trump will be using this, of course, will be to quell Black Lives Matter protests, and then later to uphold his inevitable having to leave office. He'll institute, a martial law of some kind, and since the troops are already deployed, it'll create just enough confusion that it would be bad. I also think that he could use this power to go after clinics, attack religious groups and universities that disagree with his agenda, I think that's all within the provision of his psychoses. So these are the things I most worry about when it comes to this part and the Insurrection Act. His he actually wanted to deploy it twice. Once was against the Black Lives Matter group during those different protests. So he wanted to deploy already twice, but he was talked out of it by Department of Justice and his lawyers were like, this is not going to go over well. You are already very unpopular. This is not something we want to do. Well, I can guarantee you, based on what we already know he's going to do with the Department of Justice, what we know he's going to do with the courts and has already done with the courts, what I know he's going to do with the military, what we know he's going to do with just about every power that he has to change the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, and all those different organizations that we've talked about in previous episodes of this. I think he would use all of them in a coordinated attack against our civil liberties. And that just, and quite honestly, he said that. So it's not me exactly making anything up here. But this is if you're looking for a hammer where we're going to be the nail, this is the hammer. And by the time they realize they've used it inappropriately, all the nails are flattened. So job done. We have the most powerful military on the planet Earth. And the next one, it's like a far second. So globally. And the amount of strife this would cause in our military would be unreal. There's no way that troops are going to be deployed and not have second thoughts, and their sergeants and all the way up not going to have second thoughts about pulling the trigger. They will, and then they're going to be in a world of trouble. I could see a lot of court martials coming out of this kind of behavior if he's able to actually, push this agenda. So this is part of Project 2025, and this is the part that it scares me. It's only because this is the apparatus with which he would use all the other parts. And that's kind of why I've held it not to the very end, but if anyone was questioning what his modus operandi would be, I think just listen to the last few days. He flat out said that don't worry about voting because you won't need to vote after this. That's problematic. I do have a great quote, and I hope everyone appreciates the irony. Peace is not absence of conflict. It is the ability to handle conflict by peaceful means. President Ronald Reagan. Well, all right. Hope everyone enjoyed this video. I kept it tight. It's a lot of stuff to cover. That's why I broke this thing up into 15 pieces, because it's just huge and real, a lot of machinery involved. So I appreciate everyone, liking and subscribing. Feel free to subscribe and like if you have not already. If you'd like to support the work I'm doing, I have a PayPal site up now at CLSP Politics. And I hope everyone has a good day.